And what we're learning is that, there's so many wonderful things happening, and we're learning how to tell our story and to get the word out and to really engage our students and our community in this process. And so I really appreciate you being here. It's hard to come out in the evening when everybody is so busy. And our hope is that it's kind of like the starfish story. Every person that can learn what we're doing and that can share our story just makes it that much richer. And hopefully it increases our connections, and it just really helps us grow this new future that we're trying to have for our students. So we embarked and started Innovate Dayton last year. I can't believe it's only been a year and a half that we've been heading down this journey. But what we realized was, as we started down this journey, we were really learning as we were going, and we were kind of making it up along the way, because we were learning, and then we would change and we would adjust. And we thought, we need to back up a little bit, and we need to be able to hopefully help people when they see Innovate Dayton or they see our signs up, they are starting to understand what that means, so that we're all starting to get more of a consistent message of, what is Innovate Dayton? What is this thing I've heard? Because it's a lot of things. And so we just want to help get that message out. And so that is kind of our goal tonight, to be able to share that with you. And so what is Innovate Dayton? And that is, it's a collaboration between our students and our educators and our community to reimagine the educational experience for our students. We really believe that it is our job to inspire all the learners that walk through our door. I have seen amazing programs around the state, and I've seen things around the country online, really cool schools that are like charter schools or different types of schools. And I have a real strong passion about every student that walks through our door at Dayton deserves the right to have this experience. That's kind of been our mission, to just reimagine that experience. We teamed up with Innovate Oregon last year, and this has been a real critical partner for us, because through our partnership with Innovate Oregon, we began to understand more fully what the future is looking for, what industry is looking for, what skills are needed for our students as we prepare them for the future. So that kind of leads me into why. So why are we doing this? One of the things we have learned is that schools are one of the few entities that haven't really changed over time. I saw this, I've seen this really cool, there's a Facebook video out there where it shows a phone from 100 years ago and a phone now, and a car 100 years ago and a car now, and a classroom 100 years ago and a classroom now. And that picture isn't that much different, very similar. Yet, we are preparing our kids not for this industrial economy that used to be, rather more of a digital economy. And so what are those skills, hi Ava, what are those skills that are needed for that digital economy? And one of the things we're learning about our students is that to really get that deeper learning, you have to answer the question why. So why is this important that I learn this? Why, how is this going to help me? Why is this information even necessary? Why is this problem important for me to solve? And to really make the meaning more personalized for the students. And that's been one of our missions and our purpose. And so through this process, we are being, or I would say this movement, this inspiration that we're on, this journey that we're on, is not something that's brand new, in that I think everyone around the country is trying to solve the same problem. We hear it everywhere. We've got to do something differently. How do we get our graduation rates up? How do we get people to come to school? How do we get kids to want to be at school? How do we inspire our learners? And the one thing that we're doing differently is we're trying it. We're just doing it. And we're learning from that. And that is what innovation is all about. It's not about knowing the answer before you start out, which is kind of what we're used to as educators, is kind of knowing what's going to happen, but it's having a vision and a dream, but then not being afraid to take that first step and then learn from it and fail a little bit and go, okay, that didn't work, but let's see what we can do differently. And so we are actually gaining a lot of momentum through this, and it actually is very inspiring. So how does this work? Because that's the big question that we're being asked around the state right now, is how are you guys doing this? How are you able to do this differently? And so we believe that the learning in the classroom is where it all starts. The students are in the classroom, and we want them to gain an inspiration for something, for a passion for learning, an inspiration for what they're learning about, or better understanding of why they're learning that. And we are doing that through a series of, we're calling them agile learning sprints, which is a way to make learning more meaningful for students, but also be agile in the process and realize that we need to make adjustments along the way, and we need to allow students to take their learning a little bit deeper. So we're trying to find creative problems in our community and in our school that we can come together with the students to solve. And I will say that's one thing I've been super impressed by our students is just their minds are incredible, and we have to get out of their way and let them really take control of their learning, and then come alongside them as facilitators and help connect them to what they need so that they can grow. So one of our students, Katie Jack, she's right here in the front, she has really taken hold of the helping us tell our story piece. I don't think she knew that she was a videographer or a photographer or a marketing person until we started down this road, and she really began to have a passion for taking videos and telling our story in different ways. And so just recently, she entered a contest, and I'm gonna let you come here and tell us what the contest was, because you can say it better than me. And then we're gonna show you the video that she entered.
So I entered the C-SPAN Student Cam video contest, which was a contest that was for high schoolers all around the country, and everybody had to make a video on the theme, your message to Washington, what is the most important issue that our new president needs to address, or something of that, not word for word, but something like that. And so I made this video. Obviously, I believe that the most important issue is education, and sorry, I'm a little nervous. I wasn't expecting. But and just the fact that we're really just not preparing our students for the workplace. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I made this, and you'll see it.
Roger, do you want to click the one light back there above the water? The one on the left. Will I turn this?
In the United States, 1.2 million teens drop out of high school. All of these students hold their own reasons, but failing too many classes, not seeing relevancy in their learning, and boredom make up the top three at 73.8% of dropouts.
I think that in our current curriculum, or the way that we teach students, is that they struggle to find out why. Why are they even here? Why do they need to learn what's being taught? I think that the key difference where we need to go for students is for them to understand the importance of learning and what it is they're learning and why they're learning it. Right now, they just don't have that connection.
We believe we're facing a crisis in this country. We believe that we are falling behind within the global markets. And the key piece of that is being able to have the talent that drives our companies forward, the creative, empowered talent that we need in order to be competitive in the global market, global economy. And if we do not reimagine how we prepare our talent, our students, for this new economy, we will fail not only ourselves, but we've failed our country.
And some of the challenges for companies today is to find a new type of worker, a new type of employee. As we move into a more technology-driven world, we need to find a way to get students into the real world using the kinds of methods and techniques that people in jobs in the real world use before they graduate. We need them to be ready to go into the workforce, not ready to be trained to go into the workforce. We need people to come out of school ready to work, and if they're going to come out of school and be ready to work, they have to have some experience actually working.
Not only has Congress showed interest in innovating our schools, but they've also shown concern over the future generations of workers.
But we think the nation ought to be concerned as we think about our future workforce needs. At a time when the nation needs more and more college-educated workers, there's going to be fewer of them available because we are not graduating enough from high school.
The dynamism associated with innovation is what we want to get to.
For the last year and a half, I've been working with Innovate Oregon and my high school principal to come up with a solution to keep students engaged in the classroom. As industry and education combined, we came up with the Agile Learning Model.
An agile learning model is modeled from industry, which allows the learning to be flexible for students.
The idea being that you take a problem that's complex, break it down into its components, put together a team that very quickly takes pieces of that and solves them in a sense of urgency, a sense of purpose, with a real sense of accountability.
We use the term Agile Learning Model in this context because what we're trying to do is to bring this culture of innovation into our schools and our school programs so that we get students learning to think quickly and work through problems quickly, just like they would do in the real world. We have to find ways to get students into programs in the school, out of the school, that actually work on solving problems, making things, doing things, as opposed to just learning and taking tests, right? So there's two things that have to happen if you're gonna really adopt the Agile Learning Model and create an innovation culture. You have to have problems that interest students that are real problems to work on and solve. Not necessarily problems, but challenges, whatever they may be. And that means something besides what you do with the textbook and taking tests. And then you gotta apply this mindset of try it. If it works, great, perfect it. If it didn't work, fix it and perfect it.
The goal of Innovate Oregon is to start to get educators and educational institutions to start having these conversations and really asking why are we here and what is our purpose and how can we be different? How can we change to better meet the needs of the future? We need to completely rethink education from the ground up, and I feel like this is the way our world is working. This is what industry is telling us.
We wanted to bring some high technology types of methods and techniques and processes into the educational environment.
In order for us to reach this goal, we need partnership. We don't expect our government leaders to be able to provide the solution, but we expect our government leaders to be partners, full partners, in helping us solve this.
Congress. All that we're asking for is for you to take our ideas into consideration. We'd like you to address the future of our companies and our students. We want you to look at our ideas and help us implement the Agile Learning Model in schools around the country, because every student deserves an education that will prepare them for their future. Sincerely yours, the future of the United States of America.
So, and this is the kind of learning that is really cool because Katie had a passion, and then she found something that she could do with that passion, and that's real, and that makes a difference. And she didn't go into it thinking, well, what if I don't win, or what if it doesn't work, or what if it doesn't turn out? She went for it, and And that's what we want our kids to enter in. We want them to find their strengths in the classroom through the experiences that the teachers are giving them, to where that they begin to go, you know what, like, I kind of like this, and I'd like to do more with it. And so what happened was, within that, we have the learning that goes on in the classroom. And with this agile learning model, we are learning it. As teachers and educators, we are figuring out what works for kids, and we're trying new things, and we're learning from them. We've had a couple examples, though, where we've done some activities or challenges or projects with kids, and they were hypothetical to an extent, where we wanted them to just start thinking about the problems or challenges that they could solve. But then after, we have had a few students out of a class that would say, well, can we really do that? Can we really go build that tiny house that we just designed? Like, why not? And that was kind of our next step of going, wow, okay, we're inspiring these passions in kids, but then we're kind of saying, well, maybe someday, And so we want to be able to harness that energy and be able to allow that passion to happen. So we began to rethink how that could happen. And so that's where the learning beyond the classroom has come, where we were thinking beyond the classroom. And so I'm going to ask Mitch to come forward, Mitch Coleman, one of our amazing teachers at the school. And this is a space. Those of you that have been to the high school, we have a nationally renowned ag program. It's incredible. And Mitch is our ag teacher. And this is our ag shop. And it's out near the football field. It's a large space, and it's where we've had welding and mechanics and ag, our greenhouse where you can buy the plants. It has been an incredible space where this type of learning has been happening for years, because it lends itself very nicely to the program that Mitch runs. As we learned about these innovative skills and the mindsets and what we're looking for, and this is when we said we don't want the kids just to want to go to ag. We want them to get excited about all the learning that they're going to do. And we don't want this building to be just for the kids who are doing the ag projects. We want it to be a building for all kids that want to take their learning further. And so we are repurposing or redesigning this space, and we're calling it our I3 Center. And that logo up in the corner, our students created. And they wanted it because they know that there's other people around that are saying we want an I3 Center. So they created it with a pirate eye because they want it to be their own. We will be the Pirates I3 Center. And I3 stands for inspiration, which is what we talked about in the classroom. Inspiration. Innovation. This is that way of thinking and solving and being creative, solving problems and being creative. And then invention. And then how do students take their ideas and actually make something and potentially create something or solve a problem that's real for our future. And so we are in the process right now of, in about 2 weeks, we will be having our grand opening of the first phase of our I3 Center. And this space, this is kind of hard to see because it's got a lot of information on it, but we have a very large classroom out there right now that we are calling our ideation lab, which is where students can take their ideas or come together with, partner with community members or other students or educators, and they can begin to collaborate on problems that they want to solve, and they can begin to design solutions and ideate and prototype. And then we have these other spaces where we want them to be able to go and make or create the prototypes of their solutions. And so these spaces are where the hands-on learning happens, but it first starts with the collaboration. So I'm going to let Mitch talk a little bit about our I3 Center, because we're renovating his home.
Yeah, it literally has been for the last 27 years the place that I spend as much time as I spend at home, and a lot of you know that. Today I wanted to I was thinking, I took kids to a public speaking contest, and one of the girls' topics was GMOs, and the first genetically modified food came on the market in 1990, okay? And the question that came out was, why wasn't there such a buzz? Why weren't people asking the question in 1990? Guys, when did phones become popular? When did all this technology, when did internet? We're talking a massive amount of change in a really short amount of time. And we've got to start moving that direction with our schools. And we're trying to keep up, but we're not there yet. And what our idea is to integrate both those things into this one space. So we'll have the technology, we have all the things that kids need to be prepared for the future, and we're also going to help them to be a part of the future. And everything that we do at the school right now, kids are involved with that. We don't make decisions, we don't do things without asking for their input, because we learned about marketing. Marketing is about the person you're selling the product to. And for a long time in schools, we've done just the opposite. You need to learn it because I think you need to learn it. That's why you do it. Just sit there and follow along, okay? So what we're doing now is we're looking at the opposite direction. We're going to businesses and we're finding out what they are really going to be looking for in the future for the workforce. And so what we're doing is trying to integrate that. If you look at the upper corner where there's a whole bunch of chairs, it's on the upper left-hand corner. That's going to be the ideation lab. That was my classroom last year and Mr. Verdun's classroom, and we've blown out the walls and we've created one huge room. And the room is about this size. I mean, it is a very big room. We had people in last Saturday painting it. We're doing the whole things. All the stuff on the inside, we have new lights and all new stuff in there. And so kids are going to be able to get in there. Our hope, our plan is to get all sorts of new equipment in there. We want laser cutters. We want, I don't know, now they're drawing a blank at all the dang equipment that we're supposed to have. But the room will be full with the latest equipment and the latest things for kids to use inside there to start thinking and making stuff. Once you invent something, we wanted to have maker spaces for them. So where the welding shop is, you see the yellow part that's in there. There's a solid one. You can't read it, but that's a plasma cutter. We have a brand new $16,000 plasma cutter that's in place, ready to run by this weekend. We'll have it totally in place, and kids will be cutting all sorts of different things in there. In the future, we envision that we'll have a store that's open and being able to sell products that kids are making, and that would be one of them. They can make metal art. They can do all sorts of things with the plasma cutter. In our fusion center, that's all the welding. We have wire feed welding. We have oxyacetylene. We have arc. We have TIG. We have everything that the industry wants us to have as the kids move forward. Kids could and have, from our program, went directly into the workforce. Welding, today, welders make about $60, $70 an hour. Good welders. So we're not against college. We want college, but we need to have both. We're looking at about 30% of kids that are going to college. So if you take those 30%, what is the next 50% of the kids going to do? And what they were saying in the video and what we're thinking is, how do we prepare those 50% to be ready for the workforce? And that could be all sorts of different, that could be apprenticeships, that could be trainings, that could, all sorts of stuff that's going on in there. And so we want them to be ready for that. The Metal Fabrication Center, which is new down here in the bottom, will have lathes and mills. A lathe is a horizontal, like an old wood lathe that you've seen, but it's metal. And so originally, people would make all the parts for everything with lathes, and a mill is an upright, vertical this way. And so you can make any part for any piece of equipment out of those two things. Everybody's moving to CNC machines. And so the new pieces, you program a computer, you put the metal in, and it's all programmed and it makes it, right? Well, the fact is somebody had to design it from the beginning using one of the old-fashioned lathes, taking the measuring tapes, doing all the intricate stuff, and that's a dying art. The people who are doing those things right now are older than I am, okay? I'm 56. The guys who are doing that are in their 60s, and they're going to retire in the next 5-6 years. There's nobody to fill the spot, and it's not like that's not going to disappear, the need for those kids. And if you have both skills, if you know how to run a CNC machine and you know how to run a regular lathe, you can demand the price that you want, because you're going to be, they need you. So that'll be in the Metal Fabrication Center. It won't be just metal. Everything in that shop moves around, except for the lathes and the upright mill. Everything is portable. So if we come in, you need to build something, you can move around and do it. In the back over here is a wood shop, and that's the Wood Fabrication Center. We're not going to necessarily have a full-blown wood shop, but it has table saws. It has everything you need to do wood projects, to build things. Will be all in the back. There's a paint room that's in there, already in place with all the ventilation and stuff, so we have a new paint room. The picture you saw of kids against the wall pouring something, Those kids are in it, are designing shoe soles for Nike. Okay, so they get to design the shoe sole. They look at it. They design their own shoe sole. They make their own mold. Thank you. And then they're actually pouring it, and then they put on the sandals so they can walk around and see if it really feels like what they thought it would feel like. So that's the first step of innovation, and it is a nasty, sticky thing. So we can put that in the paint room. We also have a powder coating oven that's on the way. And so powder coating is that you spray it with a powder paint, and then it goes into an oven that's 400 and some degrees, and you cook it for 20 minutes, and you have a permanent seal on your metal. So we have metal that we can fabricate or cut. We have all the powder coating. We have all of those things that will be in there. The vision in the long run for this area, you imagine, and it kind of, they said that, if you get a kid, if you get someone out there that designs a product and thinks, man, this would be kind of a cool business to have, I just don't have any money to make it happen. We envision in the future with support that that student could come to the Innovation Council and say, it's going to cost me $3,000 to start this business up and use this equipment to get going. Could that be a possibility here? And we could help those students to create their own business and move out into the real world and doing their own thing. So those are things that we envision in the future. That's the first phase. Second phase, if you remember where my greenhouse is that's along the road, we are going to tear that down. We're going to build a pole barn that's 30 by 60. We're going to make the first 24 by 30 space an automotive shop where we can redo trucks, tractors, all those things. Jim Dorn is already on board, and he wants to do that. He wants to set up an apprenticeship so that kids that are good in there that we say that would fit his needs can go and work and learn from the best at Jim Dorn's mechanics and do the stuff there. He has 2 mechanics that still work at Jim Dorn that started when McMinnville had an automotive program, went through the apprenticeship, went to get training, and have worked for him for the last 20-some years. Guys, mechanics, good mechanics make over $100,000 a year. So the jobs, the careers, the things that we're talking about fit the need of industry and fit the need of our students. And we want that to be there. So as we take the first greenhouse down, we're talking to business about helping us to build another greenhouse that's bigger and better, that can go there and sell plants and teach kids all those things. Eventually out on the tennis court, and this may be coming up later, is that we want to build a bigger building out there. We want to build the true center out there that has everything, that we'd have a storefront that we could sell things out of. We sell plants out of the store. We'd have kids interning there. They could learn to sell plants. We'd have in the back, if you looked out the window, just like the kitchen has that window space, imagine looking out there into an art room where kids were doing pottery and paintings, and then that pottery and stuff could come into the storefront and be sold in there. And then you look out the one side, I have a tissue culture lab that looks a little bit like a jail right now on the end of the field, and that could be there. So you look through the window and you're watching kids working with all the test tubes and those things, and you get to see the plants that we have growing in there. The plants in the tissue culture lab are going to be coming out and sold in the greenhouse. On one side, you look out another window and you have where we have the music, and we have a recording studio, and we have culinary art going out another space. Those are all visions that we have for the future in the third phase and looking at that stuff. We're here for you tonight to just hopefully help you to catch a little bit of the things that we have right now. We're excited about it. You know, I told you, I've been doing this 27 years. And, you know, I think originally they put me out by myself because I was a little crazy, you know, and so now we're all working together, and it's fun, and it's an exciting place to be. And we know we're going to have a grand opening on the 22nd. You need to come and see it because it's pretty amazing. Plasma cutters, all sorts of cool things that are happening.
Thanks, Mitch. What's exciting about this movement for us is that 27 years, this is my 24th year, and I feel like I'm as excited as I was, or more excited than I was when I started. So it just keeps inspiring us as educators as well. And we had a really amazing event last Saturday. It was called a Make-a-thon. And one of the things we're finding out about this learning is that it's really hard to explain to people Like, how do you learn differently? Because we all learned very similarly. We all went through a very similar traditional education model, and it's hard to imagine that it could be flipped, or that the teacher isn't going to have all of the knowledge, or that the students, that we could co-learn together. And what does this mean? And how would this look? What would this look like? And so what we're finding is that the more people can experience this type of learning, it shifts your mindset, and it makes you realize, you know what? I get it, and I see how much more powerful it can be. So we're going to show you a really short video. From last Saturday, we had 65 participants in our make-a-thon. We had students, the youngest was in second grade, and the oldest was senior. So we had students from grade school, middle school, and high school. We had community members. Our oldest community member was like 71, I think. So it was all a wide range. And then we had educators from the grade school, middle school, and high school. We formed teams, and the students learned together. The groups learned together. They co-learned. They learned coding, some of the basics of coding, which is the foundation for a lot of our future businesses is around tech. Tech, as Mitch said, a lot of the machines are you have to know how to code before they will actually make what you want them to make. So they learned coding in the morning, and then in the afternoon they had to work in their teams to solve a problem and to create something. And then at the end of the day, they got a chance to share it, and they had and it was an amazing experience. And so I'm going to show the video, and then I'm going to ask the participants that came tonight just to come up and say a little thing about what did that day mean to you? What really stood out for you? So be thinking of that as we watch it.
Maybe another hour?
Ice cream. And then when it gets dark again, the door will close.
Wow.
I have loved learning with the kids, and then kind of collaborating between the different groups and seeing how our ideas are working compared to how other groups' ideas are working, and different ways we can change the code between us to help us accomplish things. So it's been awesome.
Just typing in the coding just made me feel so good. Like I'm doing something that's technical savvy. I'm learning something, and I really want to do more of that. And that way, my daughters also can see that I'm so interested in it and motivated. Hopefully, I'll motivate them too.
Parts was being with everyone else and how we're working on building it all together, and I'm not just struggling of it by myself and always having to ask everyone for help.
as someone who's been really involved with Innovate Dayton for quite some time now, I think just the energy of that room is exactly what we're looking for, and that's what we want a classroom to feel like every single day. And I think that it's just a good example of what the I3 Center is going to look like when it's finished and what the classrooms of the future look like.
So if you attended the Make-a-thon, would you come forward? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Yeah, you. Come up here. So share what stood out to you. What did you like about that experience? Say who you are and what grade you're in.
My name's Jaden Anderson, and I'm in 6th grade. I think my favorite part about the Make-a-thon was that we weren't the only ones learning, that the teachers and other people were learning too. I'm Ava Hargett, 6th grade, and what was really good about the Make-a-thon was that everybody was learning with each other and no one was struggling. We were all learning together.
My name is Maya Flick. I'm in 6th grade, and I really liked how people weren't struggling by themselves. Instead, they could go over to another group and see what they're doing best, instead of just looking at their group, seeing how their project isn't turning out how other people's are. And so I think that helped a lot of people doing that.
Hi, my name is Jackson Flake, and I'm in 8th grade, and probably one of my favorite parts of the Make-a-thon was just the fact that everybody was able to learn together and not really be confused by themselves. If they were going to be confused, they would be confused with other people.
My name is Rupert Dallas. My son Caleb and I went to the Make-a-thon, and what I thought was most impressive and basically is, you know, like that moment where you close your eyes and you see that moment over and over and over again was the first time my son actually started typing something, and then when he looked at it, it actually started moving. And his eyes got so big, and like you could see the gears spinning and the light bulbs turn on, and all of a sudden he's so excited about it, and I won't forget that moment. I was 16 when I built my first motor, and when it turned on, I had that moment because I thought, gosh, it would never do that. And to have that moment at such a young age, it's jaw-dropping and eye-opening.
How old is Caleb?
Caleb is 9.
I'm Roger Lorenzen. I am 50 years older than Caleb. I'm an assistant principal at the school, and I was a part of helping put it together. It's the second Make-a-thon I've attended. The first one was about a year ago at Chemeketa Community College, and we wanted to bring that to Dayton. And I would just say this, for all of our kids in Dayton, not just the ones who went to the Make-a-thon, but all the kids in the classroom, in every classroom. Mrs. Fluke made a saying, and it hangs right above her office. I put it there. And the quote is, "Our kids are brilliant, and we want the world to know that." And being a Dayton graduate of 1975, that resonates with me. And brilliance, to me, really is not about intellect. Brilliance is about the light that this gentleman just talked about. It's the light that every kid has inside of them. And when it comes on, it shines, and it shines in a brilliant way. And Innovate Dayton is an attempt to discover what is brilliant about every student and then let that light shine. It increases their value, and I believe it sends a message to their parents and to their siblings that they are valuable as well. And I think that's what Innovate Dayton is all about.
Thank you, guys. Does anyone have any questions for the participants? Tell them what you made. What'd you make, Jaden?
I made a chicken chicken coop door that could automatically open with the motor.
And what made it open?
We had a motor connected to the door that would spin when we turned on the program.
What would make the door, like what was the conditions that made the door open? Did it have to do, like what did you have to code for it? Did it have anything to do with the light or did yours have anything to do with the sensor or did you just make it so it opened and closed?
We made it so it opened and closed.
Okay, awesome, cool. How about you, Ava?
My group made a like a room that when it got too cold, the heater would turn on, and to indicate that the heater was on, a red light would blink.
Awesome. How about you?
We tried to make a chicken coop where the door automatically opens and closes, but that didn't work out as planned, so instead we made a circuit board that made all the lights flash, and we had to figure out the computer code for it.
Cool. Awesome. So the last part of our process of how with Innovate Dayton, we talked about in the classroom learning, the inspiration, the beyond the classroom learning, where you take that. If students went to the Make-a-thon on Saturday and decided, I want to keep going with this and I really want to try to make something out of a code and use the circuit board to try to make something, then I want to keep going. I don't want it to stop because it's over. So that's beyond the classroom. And the third part is our partnerships. We're doing this together. And so we have had so many individuals over the last year. I typed up our partnerships on a piece of paper a week ago, and it was 2 pages long of the people that have partnered with us from Dayton, from Yamhill County, from Oregon, and from outside of Oregon, across our nation. And we could not be doing what we're doing today without those partnerships. We all know that education is underfunded, and we're always operating on this mindset of scarcity. We're always like scrimping and trying to do things with more with less. And we realize that we can't rely on that funding structure if we really want things to change. We have to go out and we have to form partnerships. And what I have been so impressed by is how willing people are to step up and help. They believe in what we're doing and they want to help us. And our partnerships come in many, many forms. They come in the form of mentoring, like they have a skill that they want to teach, like a student wants to learn how to do something, they have a skill that they can share, and that's outstanding. It has been in the form of donations of equipment. Someone's uncle that works for Autodesk donated us 2 3D printers last year because they heard what we were doing. These kinds of things, the word gets out. It's also partnerships financially, where people have said, hey, I want to sponsor this, or I would like to give some donations for this. And so individually, just a couple examples, we have a gentleman in our community that works for ADEC, and he's an engineer, and you saw that plan earlier of the I3 Center. Nobody in our school has that skill to be able to make that plan, and it would have cost us a lot of money to have somebody come in and do that for us. And he came and listened to our vision and what we wanted, and he took that and he, on his own, and drew that plan for us and made that a reality. So when we had a contractor come look, they could see that. That was outstanding. That was incredible. We also have, that was Pete Katzler. Angie Bernards is coming in this Saturday to work with a group of students to do our floor in our I3 Center. Our community, Mitch had mentioned this weekend, the Dayton Christian Church came out and helped us paint in our I3 Center, because this is how we're getting it built. We have a minimal budget that we can work with, and people are coming forward and saying, how can we help you guys? We want to make that happen. Our Make-a-thon that you saw was sponsored. We did not spend a single penny on it. It was sponsored by our Spirit Mountain Community Grant Fund. All the food was through the City of Dayton, Sandwich Express, and the Sage Restaurant. So, and then Spark Fund actually donated their time to help us teach the Make-a-thon. So we provided the space, but it happened because of the partnerships, and people believed in that. On another level is our business partnerships. We have partnerships with companies outside of us, like IBM, Oceans of Data Institute, Stoller Family Vineyards. We've been working on projects together with them. Our most, I guess I would say our most bold partnership, and one that's really catching fire outside of us, where we reimagined this process was with Online Northwest. And some of you have heard about that partnership, but we were able to work with the CEO of Online Northwest last year through this process where we talked about bringing gigabit fiber to Dayton, which is the fastest internet. And so basically that would provide us the infrastructure that we needed for this tech-based digital economy. And then through collaborating with them, as you could see, the I3 Center that we talked about, there are these projects that kids would like to be able to do, and we have to be able to fund those and sustain those and continue to purchase equipment or whatever we may need. And we set up a long-term profit-sharing agreement with Online Northwest where anyone that subscribes to Online Northwest, a portion of their monthly bill would come back, a long-term profit-sharing agreement to our I3 Center to fund these projects, to keep it going. So we don't have to just say, oh, we ran out of money, we can't keep doing this. So these are all ways that are contributing to these efforts at Innovate Dayton. And what it's doing is it's causing other people around us to say, how are you doing this so fast? How are you making this happen? And how can we do this? And so that's why we're trying to make it really clear so other communities around us can say, well, we want to do something like this. And these are the key components of that. And partnerships are a really big piece. And this is just a graph just so you can kind of get an idea about the Dayton residents. But if we had around 400 subscribers to Online Northwest, that would bring around $30,000 a year into our I3 Center to continue to fund it, which is a considerable amount of money for our students. Last year at the ABC auction, because of this videography and the filming that's happening, we did a paddle raise and raised $5,000 in about 10 minutes for our Innovate Dayton efforts, and we were able to purchase the video equipment and a green screen and lights. So we've started a Dayton newscast, and we've got kids that are doing videography because we can make it happen. So these are really, really outstanding groups of people that have stepped forward to help us, and there's all sorts of ways that people can get involved. And then we just wanted to share one last video with you because our story is catching wind outside of Dayton, and a company called Adtran, who makes the equipment for the gigabit fiber that was put into Dayton, they heard about what we were doing. They heard about this kind of new model and then how we were partnering with industry, and they said, wow, we work with companies all over the nation and we've never heard of anything like this. This is really cool. And they wanted to help, they wanted to make our story part of their story. So they came out, when they heard about it, they flew a crew out and they went through and videoed and they told this story.
Many people in a rural community oftentimes feel when it comes to technology infrastructure that they will always be behind. They will always have to accept in some ways second best.
Across the nation right now, little girls and boys are being told, this is your ceiling. What we're finding out is when you empower them and you tell them anything is possible, you find that inside of those are very, very different people.
Rural cities across the globe are waking up. They're introducing themselves to the world, and their voices are powerful and galvanizing. Our goal at Adtran is to help. From their classroom to their wine vineyards, Dayton, Oregon is using 10 gig of fiber optics to revolutionize their town, and it all starts with education.
A lot of our students in Dayton come from families who have been here for quite some time, second generation, third generation. So it's a place, it's a community where people want to be.
The whole idea was to look at a single community with the eye always towards scaling. But every community, every state in the nation has got little towns like Dayton. They've got big towns, big cities. The current forms of academics that exist out there aren't working.
We started an innovation council this year, and out of that we met Kathy Tate from Online Northwest. We're talking about being innovative, we're talking about reimagining schools and how we teach. She came forward and said, you know, I want to be a part of that.
We at Online Northwest had put in a fiber optic line that not only enabled the students to all of a sudden have access to a lot more curriculum and be able to utilize that within the classroom, but actually bring the whole community on board.
And from the schools, we can move to the community, where everyone from store owners to Dayton's world-famous wineries are discovering the benefits of fiber optics.
Ultimately, it's about building new opportunity within the local economy. We're building the next generations of the makers and creators to support
our agricultural community.
We're able to provide a world-class experience in a rural area. One of the great parts is we can be up in the hills of Eola, where they have just these beautiful vineyards and beautiful wineries, and they can have hundreds of megabits, if not a gigabit, if they choose.
And this tech-based system is introducing Dayton as a golden standard for other small towns. A perfect example for the potential of fiber optics from education to application.
When you start looking at communities here in Oregon and communities across the nation, there are all those little small to medium-sized towns, and many of those have lost their way. If we're good at what we're doing, I believe that the culture of innovation that we're teaching will evolve itself.
You can tell people are on the verge of trying to look at education differently. We're kind of creating that model with the hope that others will be asking that question. How can we have what they have in Dayton? And we're excited and we're proud to be leaders in that, but it is tough and it takes a lot of grit and perseverance and passion. And we do have that here in this little community.
And there's no doubt about that. Grit, passion, and tech. A perfect formula for progress, and one we're bringing to communities all around the world.
We always laugh that Multnomah Falls isn't really in Dayton. It's not secretly somewhere. So the last piece of this is probably where we're really trying to expand and get the word out to our community, because we feel like we've really focused in the school, and now it's time to really expand this, to build this fiber in our community, the fiber of connectiveness, and to help build this future together. And our students came up with the tagline, "I am Dayton's future," and we feel like we want our community to be the future. And so I'm going to ask Delia to come up. Delia Hammond is a community member that has begun working with us around kind of this Community Connect effort. And then I'm also going to introduce Thompson Morrison from Innovate, Oregon, who has been in on the crazy train with us from the beginning, and it's been an outstanding partnership. So they're going to talk a little bit about our Community Connect initiative. I don't know which one of you guys are. Okay.
Turn it quickly over to Delia. So one of the things that we realized is that to build a successful model around the I3 Center, it does take the entire community to be a part of it. And so what happens is that in order to have a community, that community needs to be connected. People need to be in relationship with each other, and know, particularly when there are needs or aspirations, to be able to quickly identify where the assets are within the community that could help. And so one of the things that we began to realize is how might we begin to work with the students in the community to better connect the community together and start really at the block level and move to the neighborhood level. But and so Delia started working with us, so we started piloting this idea in her neighborhood to say, how could we do this? How could we learn how to do this? And how could we begin to replicate this in other neighborhoods? So perhaps you can speak a little bit about your experience.
Thank you. So just to give you a little bit of background, David and myself moved from England to the US in 1984. Neither one of us went to a formal 4-year college. We both basically did apprenticeships. And so we very much believe in hands-on learning. And when we first heard about the I3 Center and Innovate Dayton, it just turned all kinds of green lights for us. Both of our kids graduated from Dayton. We moved here in 1998. The only reason why we live in Dayton is because of the recommendation of the school district. So that's why we're here, and we definitely believe in Dayton and the school district. Several years ago, in the Palmer Creek subdivision where we live, Joel Palmer Way, right after Dayton lost temporarily its police service, we established a neighborhood watch in that subdivision. And then the police service came back, and we didn't really do a great deal of active work with the neighborhood watch. Well, then with the Community Connect idea, we decided, hey, it would be a really good idea to get back out and talk to people in the Palmer Creek subdivision about Online Northwest. And so we decided last December to have a little community potluck. It was time to get the people back together and build some community again. So we did that, and Thompson came out, and we had a pretty sparse turnout, but it was cold and it was snowy, and it was a busy time of the year, but we did it anyway. And one of the things that we learned from that was that there's a real need for people to connect with each other, not just for education and being in community, but a real concern that there could be a disaster sometime, and that we need to pull together and work together to gather information, resources about one another. And so I took this back to our next meeting that we had at the high school, and that's where the Community Connect model kind of grew out of that. So in the Palmer Creek subdivision, we're piloting this idea. We're actually developing our own little agile learning module. Rather than me going around to 50 homes and gathering people's information, we've broken it down. So Palmer Creek subdivision is the neighborhood, and then we've broken that down by streets. And we have a connector, a community connector in each street that we've identified. Somebody who's pretty passionate about the Dayton School District, and if they subscribe to Online Northwest, all the better. But we've identified those people, and now those people are going to their maybe 6, 10 homes in their street and updating that neighborhood watch information. They're getting email addresses, cell phone numbers, so that the people in that block can be connected to each other. They can share resources that they might have. One might have a generator. That would be helpful if there's a power outage for an extended length of time. Another might have a really good stash of water already. Another might decide that's a really good idea and perhaps go out and source food supplies, water supplies for an emergency. But they can just pool off one another. That information is gathered at the block level, and then it will be basically accumulated at the neighborhood level. And then ultimately, if that pilot works, it will be taken out to the entire community. So all of Dayton can be connected. And where does that tie in with Innovate Dayton? Well, we'll have a wonderful resource of information. We may find that there are people who work in the community at large who might have a talent or a resource that they can plug into the I3 Center, as well as having a generator, or maybe somebody being a nurse who can help with emergency situation, but somebody who can actually teach and be part of the I3 Center with their skill set. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Julia. So that just kind of concludes our information. As you go around town, you may see signs. We have these at our school. This is our mission. This is our passion. This is why we're doing what we're doing. It's for our kids. It's for our future. We want you to be a part of the future. There are a lot of ways you can get involved. Like Delia was even saying, you can volunteer time. If you have an asset or a skill that you'd like to share, if you have connections to other people. We have signs back here that we brought. They're yard signs, and you may have seen them in your neighborhood, but if you're willing to take a yard sign and put it in your yard, that just shows that you support what we're doing with Innovate Dayton, and maybe one of your neighbors will say, "What is that? What does that sign mean?" And our hope is that you can begin to help tell our story, because we know that we can't do it by ourselves. We have to have the partnerships, and so the more of you that can help us tell our story, the more the community is going to get on board, and we can gain that momentum. So these are just some of the ways that you can get involved, but. I have a piece of little spreadsheet that I brought that if you would like to leave your name and email, that when we give out information, when we will be advertising for our grand opening of our I3 Center, our Pirate Night in a couple weeks, we can make sure that you get that information so that you're aware of it. You can share it with your friends, neighbors, or whatnot. So we would love to have you help join with us, or to get other people to want to help join with us. To be a part of this future.
Absolutely. So one of the things that happened, again, we're learning. This is an experiment, and one of the things that happened is that we began, once the Dayton network was built, we began to kind of go to other communities and say, who wants to be the next city that follows Dayton's lead and becomes a 10 gigabit network? Well, when we went down to Amity, they said, this is really great, but in Amity, 70% of their school district lives in the rural community. And so in order for it to really take hold in Amity, we really have to include the rural community. And we went, well, what's it back in Dayton? And we went back and did the numbers, and it's almost 60% live outside of the city. So if we're really talking about Innovate Dayton as being inclusive, we have to really think about how do, even though the network itself is in town, a lot of the community is outside of the town. And so we thought, well, why don't we bring everybody into the profit sharing plan? So that we then expanded the idea of contribution so that all the rural subscribers to the wireless service for Online Northwest, which is the core of the business itself, most of the revenue and most of the businesses with wireless serving the rural community. So now all of the residents who live within the Dayton School District, whether or not they live in town or in the rural communities, are actually contributing to the Innovation Fund. So this is an important part where, again, we're learning about partnership. And what's happened here is that the Dayton story here is having also a very significant impact in the whole county. So now Willamina is now announced, we've announced them as being the next city to follow on the lead. The construction in Willamina just began last week. In this year, that network will be constructed. They have learned from Dayton. Dayton is learning from Willamina. And also now, Yamhill Carlton is initiating their own Innovate initiative. Newburgh wants to start their Innovate initiative. The school, what's really interesting is that the school leaders are now talking to each other in new ways as well because of the leadership that Jamie and Janelle have shown here in Dayton. So that what's happening here is that the school leaders in Yamhill are now talking together. So the point of that is that when you're doing this process of innovation, everything evolves, and it evolves quickly. And it's the speed in which you evolve. So it evolves in terms of who's included, so in the case of the wireless, but also includes how this is spread around. And in fact, this Friday is the kickoff of a cohort, a 3-month cohort of leaders in the school districts, principals around Oregon, which is partnering with the University with Stanford University's design school around how do you reimagine leadership using the tools of Agile. And so most of the principals that are attending that are from Yamhill County. And the reason why most of them are coming is because they've heard what Dayton's doing, and they want to be a part of that. So this is a story about Dayton, and it's a story that keeps getting even larger than just only Dayton alone. And that's the real power of what we're doing here.
So I'm going to leave this. This is just a little sign-in sheet if you'd like to leave your name and your email, just so we know who was here and we can get information out. And then I'm going to turn it over. And I want to thank you again for coming and listening. And like I said, every single person that hears a story that can retell it is just, it's outstanding, and it's how we're going to grow our story. So, and then we'll be around, and if you guys have any questions of us, we'll be around to answer them. So thank you. Turn it back over to Beth.
So I didn't tell Jamie that I wanted to talk a little bit about my perspective and my story with this as well. I'm a third-generation graduate from Dayton High School. My parents went to school with Roger. My grandparents went to school here, and both sides of the family. We have a lot of multi-generation families here, and that's a powerful thing for a couple of reasons. One, a lot of the multi-generational families here are not stuck. They chose to come back. I chose to come back for several reasons. One was when I graduated from high school, I applied for an ABCD scholarship, which I was awarded. And when I was doing my interviews with the school board, I promised them at that time that I was going to come back and serve my community. I had a goal of being a senator by 28, where I could where I was going to fight for things that Dayton needed, and I didn't make it, but I was mayor at 29, and I'm taking that as a win. And people come back for all kinds of reasons. My story's not unique here, and that's a really cool thing. A couple of years ago, I feel like this is sort of a hair club thing, like I'm also a client. I'm also a teacher at the high school. So I teach government and economics there, and when I was hired, 3 of my classmates were hired at the same time who had a lot of the same ideas. We felt a little bit, to be super honest, underserved by the school while we were there, and we wanted to come back and make some improvements and make a difference. And when I say classmates, I don't mean that they went to school, I mean that they graduated with me, just from my class. And my class had 68 people. So if you look at the percentage of that, we have almost 10% of my high school graduating class now working at the school district, which is kind of crazy, and I'm pretty sure pretty unique. So we have a lot invested into making this work. So if you're sitting here and this is new to you, or if you're watching this later or hearing this at another time and you think, I have a skill, I have a connection, I know somebody who does, I have assets or resources or some way in which I can play into this and improve the opportunities, maybe not for your kids, maybe for your neighbor's kids, maybe for somebody down the road, you need to step up and do that. That's how this works, especially in the community here where we have each other's backs. And when we've had small disasters and we've had power outages, we've got a condition here that the neighbors will go check on each other and make sure people are okay. And that needs to come into our school district too. So if you have a way of making things okay or better or in any way improved in the school district, you need to step up and take care of that. And if you know somebody else who does, you need to encourage them to do the same thing. It's just a really important call to service. And I'd like to also talk a little bit about the effect that I've seen in classrooms outside of the ones that are discussed. So there's obviously a really big effect. We have an innovation teacher. We have a lot of tech improvements, the shop stuff and the skills trainings and things like that. Those are really, really important trades. But another thing that I've seen from the Agile Learning Model is a freeing in the other classrooms. So I teach economics. I'm jealous of Mitch all the time. Is he still here? No. I'm jealous of Mitch all the time because he gets to build stuff and he gets to work with tools and he gets to just get kids fired up and excited about their projects in a way that sometimes I think, well, I teach econ. Let's look at inflation and GDP, you guys. This is really cool stuff. But the Agile Learning Model has created a freeing effect. And so not just me, but a lot of other teachers have been able to look at our curriculum. We don't use a textbook in my class. I actually am not sure there's textbooks being used in most classes. So the idea that we're dictating to kids and having them do projects and worksheets out of textbooks, it's simply not true. And a lot of that has come with some of this shift. So in my classroom, in my government class, we looked at policy issues and social issues, and I had kids kind of examine, what are some things that they see that they want to make improvements for, and then they wrote letters to legislators. And then I had the legislators come in and address the kids and answer, why do we raise minimum wage? Why do we have the tax structure we have? Why do we have our DHS stuff? And it makes it real, and the kids understand, oh my gosh, they're going to listen to me. And we're able to do that because of the Agile Learning Model. So, we also have a group, I think Thursday, who is going to be presenting to the County Emergency Planning Board because they did an earthquake project in their class. And I called the county commissioner, and she came in and watched the presentation. She was impressed. They're now presenting to our county leadership that comes up with those emergency plans and bringing that data to them, some of which they didn't have. But the kids have the research skills to find some stuff that just hadn't been brought up before. And it makes the projects real, and it makes them important, and that makes the kids work harder for a good product, but it also, of course, can actually improve the community. Maybe we're gonna end up with a better emergency preparedness plan as a result of a 9th grade, these are freshmen, a 9th grade project. So there's a lot of opportunity outside of the I3 Center, outside of tech, in all of the regular boring econ and government classes that are out there. We have opportunities to do things that are really agile and really changing and experiential and problem-based that we wouldn't have before, especially if we were having to work through a textbook and if we were married to the standards that were written before some of us had teaching licenses. So it really provides some flexibility for everybody, not just the people directly involved in innovation, and it's going to improve the education system on a much larger scale than just those who are not going to college or just those who are in these trades. So it's a really cool thing, and if you have anything that you can add, contribute, or someone who does, please, please, please find a way to invest in this. It's an investment in our kids and our future, and there's nothing more important to invest in. So, I'm sorry my voice is so shaky. I've been really sick, and I'm trying to project it. It's not working super well. So, I thank you so much for coming out tonight. I thank the school district for the partnership. It's really nice to have the community feel like it's not the city over here and the school over here. It's nice to feel like we can try to work towards our future together. So I really appreciate that partnership, and I'm hoping it continues to grow. Thanks for everybody coming out tonight. If you have questions, make sure you address that to, well, actually, you'd be best off addressing it to kids. Find a high schooler. Find a high schooler and ask, how is this affecting you? And they will tell you they want to go to school more now. They will tell you they're more likely to get their projects done because they know a county commissioner might come in to watch their presentation. So thanks again. Have a good night.